Welcome back to the Fantasy Brothers podcast. We've got me, Josh Johnson, and over there, my good buddy Ben Watts. How you doing, Ben? How's it?
Could be better.
Dang. Getting us started on a really light note, aren't we?
Got screamed at work today by a Russian woman. That is a true story, by the way.
You wish you were making that up.
I wish I was. It was frightening.
What is getting screamed at by a Russian woman sound like?
Exactly what you think it would sound like. Exactly.
Just incredibly harsh.
All of the racist rednecks like turn their head and like start staring. And I'm not going to lie to you, like
ever.
I was when I left work, I was worried to crank up my car just a little bit.
Oh no.
I have a backstory for this. It's like a couple. I have a backstory in my head that they're either like, sleeper agents, but that's like a gimme. That's like a sleeper agent family. Or
why else
like,
would they be in Camden, South Carolina?
Exactly. Or he's like a disgraced nuclear physicist who's on the run for the Russian government. Like they were doing some very morally, just wrong experiments on people and building weapons of mass destruction, and he had to get out of the country, kind of thing. That one's cooler, I think.
I think so, until you think about the fact that he stashed a little gift for you in your truck as you're going home from work.
I was concerned. Well, it wasn't him. It was his wife who screamed at me.
I mean, same difference. It's
She's going to go tell him, and then you're going to want to watch this door behind me and make sure no one comes through, okay? Like, if they do, just scream, I'll get down. And
so if somebody comes through the door during the recording, I'm going to post it. Everybody's going to know what happened.
Oh, yeah.
And,
the people need to know, okay? Prepare
we'll
for
go
war.
Viral.
Parabellum, as they would say in John Wick.
Dude, are you excited for that?
Dude, I am so stoked for that movie. Oh my gosh. Man. We should go this weekend.
Oh my God. Is it going to be out this weekend?
Yeah, it comes out this Friday.
Yes, we're doing that.
Yeah, that we're going to see John Wick.
Oh man, I was watching just clips from John Wick. Like the one in the first movie when he's just running through the hallways murking people in his house.
Oh yeah.
That was the biggest, like...
I thought that was the second movie when the Santino guy hires him to kill his sister. Maybe it was the first one. I don't remember. He kills a lot of people. It gets lost in the...
There's that whole montage in the third one where it's just 20 minutes of him shooting people, no dialogue, nothing.
Dude, this new one is like 2.5 hours long, too. Like, it's almost 3 hours, I think they said.
Oh, man.
Like... He's going to kill the entire eastern seaboard. Like, there's going to be no one left.
Oh, that's going to be so good.
Well, this is a football podcast.
This is a fantasy football podcast. In case
we should open a nerd podcast.
We totally should,
and just talk about the random nerd crap we know.
That's what this podcast is. We talk about the random nerd crap we know.
Listen, I am a nerd of many varieties. This is just like the predominant one, the one I focus on most.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of other stuff.
Fair enough. Well, this one, it's some fantasy football nerdery, and we're going to go through a lot of free agency signings.
Yeah, basically, we probably touched on some of them, but this is kind of our big encompassing what's happened so far, winners and losers kind of thing.
Exactly. So hopefully, I think by this point there's only a couple players that haven't signed that could be relevant somewhere. Yeah, we really expected something for Lamar, but that has yet to happen yet. We also expected Aaron Rodgers to be officially signed or traded,
I didn't.
Whatever.
I didn't.
That one's taken.
He is going to make this last as long as he possibly can.
I don't even know if he's doing it at this point.
It's him. It's got to be him.
I think it's like a standoff because you got the Jets are looking at the Packers and they're like, listen, you know that I know that you know that I know that we're the only team that wants this guy. So, this talk of a first round pick, nobody's going to pay that. So the Jets are like, listen, we'll give you a couple Reese's cups and a few packing peanuts, and let's just get this deal done. And the Packers are like, no, I want a gold bar. And the
Do you
Jets
understand?
are like, no.
Packers, if you keep him, you have to deal with him.
Yeah, the downside of the Packers keeping him is that they keep him. That's the downside.
I would not do that if I were you. That is too much risk to keep him.
just roll with an unproven fourth-year first-round quarterback that has not played a snap of meaningful football. Well, there was that one game, but you know what I mean.
You see, like Zach Wilson was like talking in training camp or whatever they've been doing. Like if they bring in a rookie, he's like, "I'm going to make this guy's life hell" or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm like, I think if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, like Zach Wilson will have met his match, because Aaron Rodgers is crazy.
The funny part is they're like tight, like best buds in real life.
Who, Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson?
Yeah, they are.
Aaron Rodgers is like twice his age.
I know, but they are buddies.
Okay.
Maybe Zach Wilson will become a better quarterback out of this. I doubt it, but it's possible.
I sure hope so.
Anyway, I want to hop into some of these signings. We'll just hop into the running backs. We'll go position by position. And hopefully at the end of it, we've got a very clear view about how some of these fantasy options, maybe how their situations are looking. How about that?
Sure.
Number one.
You sure you want to start with this? I got Russian people on my mind. We got John Wick on the mind. You want to go here right now?
Oh, man. Do we need to do some background information about this? Because this is what I have been looking forward to the most. I'm so excited.
I'm sure you have.
For the meltdown that's about to happen on this podcast. Let's just take a moment here. David Montgomery signs with the Detroit Lions for, what was it, like 3 years, $18 million. Essentially 2 years, 12, but it ends up being 3 years, 18.
Maybe one of the gangs of Detroit will just kidnap him, and that's just the last time we ever see David Montgomery. What happened to David? I don't know. He took a wrong turn down a street, and that was it.
Oh, man. So there has been a lot of to-do about this signing, and for good reason. David Montgomery has been a fairly productive fantasy asset for the Chicago Bears the past few years. But where this is really funny is there's like two sides of this. And I think I know which side of this you fall on. But there's no in-between here, this is where I think it's really funny. You've got the folks that are diehard DeAndre Swift fans that believe that, that believe that David Montgomery makes no difference whatsoever, that DeAndre Swift
I do not believe that.
Great. So this is
I'm
where
not
it
an
gets
idiot. I'm not an idiot. I'm just pissed.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there that believe that David Montgomery means nothing, that it's no different than Jamal Williams, and that Swift is going to be good, and the only reason he hasn't been good is because of injury, which I think there's some kernel of truth
there's legit. You can believe that one. That's probably true.
Right. And then there's the other side of it where people are like, oh, yeah, DeAndre Swift, he's dead. Sell him for a mid-second round rookie pick and wash your hands of it.
Those are called idiots. It's a very simple word for those people.
The post we put out today on Instagram, it said, don't sell players at their bottom dollar ever. That would apply to this situation.
Yeah, and you put DeAndre Swift in there, and I was very happy because we had the conversation, like, what do you sell Swift for? And what did I say? Like, I said I still probably need a mid-first or something like that, and you're like, I'm crazy. I'm like, well, that's less than probably what his value would have been 3 weeks ago. So, they bring in another running back. Does it cause a problem? Yeah, obviously. You bring in a good running back like David Montgomery. It causes a problem. But if you panic sell him now, like that's just stupid. He is in a vacuum. He is a better player in my mind than David Montgomery, plain and simple. Injury history, yes, it is a big concern. I am well aware of that. But he is better than David Montgomery, like he was better than Jamal Williams.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a better player. But like where this is just interesting, and I'm very curious to see how it plays out, is there's a couple factors here that I just don't really know how much they play in, because David Montgomery is like he's an average to above average player just about across the board. He's not bad at anything, but he's not great at anything. But he also played behind a really, really terrible offensive line for basically every single snap that he played as a Bear. And he goes to the Lions, and they have a great offensive line, frankly. So I'm very curious to see how much of David Montgomery's perceived inefficiency was due to the fact he played behind a terrible line on a bad offense versus, like, is that all of a sudden going to not be a thing anymore now that he's in Detroit? And if that is the case, he's more durable than DeAndre Swift. He can be a passing downs back. And I just wonder, like, how this workload sort of splits. I know Swift is better. He's more talented. He's much more of a home run threat. He's incredibly efficient for fantasy on a per touch basis. And that offense is going to be really good. But it's just kind of, Dave Montgomery to me is more of a problem because Jamal Williams was never going to do anything in the passing game. He was a low ceiling player that just happened to score an ass load of touchdowns. And Dave Montgomery's not going to do that, but I think he could take more work across the board than what Jamal Williams could have done.
Yeah, I do agree there. It's Dave Swift is better, but David Montgomery is also better than Jamal Williams was, and we've seen him catch passes, which is DeAndre Swift's bread and butter. I think there's obvious negatives. There are some positives too of I think a healthy offseason plus going in knowing that you have David Montgomery. I don't think they just abuse Swift as often as they did the first two games of last year, because the first two games of last year, like I was on a cloud. Like he scored 25 points both those games, and I'm like, okay, he's going to be the RB1. Like he's great. And then obviously the injury happened, so it will be more of a split going into it. So I think Swift will be a little bit more durable, and we still know his role. And I think his role in the offense, his touches are going to come down, but the role is still valuable because he is going to be the pass catcher, I believe.
Yes.
So I'm not coming into this season with the delusions that he could be the RB1, which he has the talent for to be the RB1 overall. He won't be with the situation. However, I still think he'll be a lower floor, but still a good upside RB2, at least right now in my mind.
Yeah, I think my final thought on this is Swift's overall like the 3-down workload. The 3-down workhorse role, I think that has vanished, disappeared, gone. He might get 10 to 15 touches a week, and it's just a matter of what he can do on that touch volume. Because I think the Lions signed David Montgomery knowing that Swift is not going to be their bell cow ever, and they may not even re-sign him for that simple fact, because of his skill set. And this is where I'm really curious. Again, if you'll turn back time a little bit, a few years ago, the then San Diego Chargers let go Melvin Gordon and signed Austin Eckler for $6 million a year. The Lions just signed David Montgomery for $6 million a year. Austin Eckler obviously took over the backfield, was a stud. And I have a sneaking feeling, maybe this is just like a real big doomsday scenario, but that the Lions have signed Montgomery and then they're not going to re-sign Swift, let him test the market. And then if Swift leaves, they'll just be fine with David Montgomery as their running back and then draft somebody in like the 3rd or 4th round and pay him nothing. And then they've got the running back room.
Yeah, I was going to say I do think this is probably the nail in the coffin for Swift's Lions career. I don't think he resigns either, which in my mind honestly could be a big plus for him. Obviously not this year, but next year. Let him go and test the free agency market. There will be some good backs on that market because obviously maybe Jonathan Taylor will be an option. Cam Akers, those guys. But I think, Taylor, he's done enough that Indy's probably going to re-sign him. They're going to keep him around. Cam Akers, not worried there. So Swift probably is the best back on that market, and you will have teams like said Chargers. If they let Eckler walk, they don't bring in somebody this year, they will be interested in a running back. So, I mean, Swift he's not going to be dead in the water for fantasy. He's going to have value. Does his value take a hit from this? Yes. I am not some psychopath. Like, I understand this is a problem, but it's not the end of the world.
Right. I think with him, you're just, if you've got shares, and we'll close the Swift book with this. If you've got DeAndre Swift shares, which I've got a couple, you've got a couple, you hang on. And if he pops off this year, I think you just sell him. If you can get a 24 first for him, hopefully it's a mid first, I think you sell him. I'd even, like, I know right now you don't want to sell him low. If you can get like a 108 or something for him in a 12-teamer, I'd be okay doing that, just because the cost that you can get for that pick, I mean, you can flip that pick, or because of the way the running backs are, there's a lot of running backs that I think are going to end up being starters that are coming out of this draft. There's a good 5 or 6 that I feel pretty convinced are going to be impactful in some form or fashion for fantasy football. So all that to say, don't sell Swift low, but if you do get something good, maybe consider it. And David Montgomery, I don't know. He's probably not going to be super great for fantasy this year, but if Swift gets hurt, David Montgomery is going to be really, really good. So he might be a good stash, handcuff sort of situation.
Yeah.
All right. Cowboys cut Ezekiel Elliott. He has not signed anywhere yet, but that leaves the Cowboys with Tony Pollard and a few bargain basement guys. Yeah, this needed to happen.
I really didn't think they would. Like, I thought Jones is going to keep Zeke. Like, there's no way that he lets him go. And they did, which was the right thing for their team.
They needed to get off that contract. They've made so many mistakes for their roster construction because of that contract. Like, Dalton Schultz is not a Cowboy because of the Zeke contract. Amari Cooper's not a Cowboy because of the Zeke contract. Zeke being there has really hampered their ability to build a championship level team. And frankly, even them paying Tony Pollard $11 million or whatever it was, like, Tony Pollard's good, but I'm starting to believe, and this is not really a fantasy take, this is just a real life roster construction take. If you want to be a really good team, pay your running backs nothing, and then just load up on everything else, because you can
Look at the Chiefs.
Yeah, they paid Pacheco like $600,000.
And he was fine.
The Philadelphia Eagles, we're going to talk about them in a moment. They're going to pay next year $3.5 million for their entire running back room that has Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, and Rashad Penny.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
There's a chance they could take Bijan in the first, and that'll change it, but
that would up it a little bit, but still. It's don't pay the running backs. Anyways. Yeah, so they cut Zeke. I would imagine you are of the opinion Zeke is kind of dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean,
for fantasy.
I'm not going to pay you anything for him if he's on your roster. I mean, he gets signed somewhere. I mean, where does he sign that's any decent? I would say,
I have no idea.
Say the
Miami.
Chargers keep Eckler and they sign Zeke to a cheap deal and just have him be the hammer at the goal line. Maybe I don't know. I'm just coming up with something off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a good player. I think he just doesn't have juice. He's a good pass blocker.
Yeah, he has some value still, and I think around the goal line he would be a good running back still. He's not a workhorse anymore. That's behind him.
And he doesn't really have the juice. It's going to be like Latavius Murray a couple of years ago. It's going to be like that, but it'll be better, essentially.
Yeah.
So if he lands in an advantageous situation, it could be interesting.
What about Tony Denver? Get him until Javonte comes back.
Yeah. I mean, for a few weeks he might be pretty interesting because they got Samaje Perine, who's obviously a pass-catching back.
About that. He's pretty good.
So, I mean, he wouldn't be on third down, but he might be because he can pass block. So they would keep him in there on third down.
Burrow would love that.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Good or bad for the Cowboys fantasy?
I mean, it's good for Tony Pollard.
Great for Tony Pollard.
It clears things up.
I've already said Bijan once. I think if he doesn't go beforehand, if he's there, Jerry Jones is taking him. No questions.
I would not be surprised. And Bijan would be very good. I mean, he'll be good
great for him.
just about everywhere, but I think he would be very good in Dallas.
Tony Pollard fans would jump off of a bridge, but...
They would. But they've been waiting for... Wouldn't it just be so poetic? Because they've been waiting for the season.
I've had Pollard
for, Tony
for 3 years.
Yeah, I've been stashing him on my bench, just waiting for it. Now I get it, and nope, it never happened.
There it goes.
That would be so fun. I would love that. I've never had Tony Pollard, so I do not care.
Yeah, I have 0 shares of Tony Pollard. I don't dislike Tony Pollard. I have no problems with him.
No, he's fine.
It's just really funny to watch people.
Just super funny to watch people jump off bridges. Anyways, Rashad Penny signed to the Eagles. Really great signing. Like, really great signing here because they got him for like $800,000 or something, which cheap as dirt for, I think, the talent. Obviously, the issue with him is health. But I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Good player.
He's a very good player. I will say that if we're going to assume health here, which I think we do because he's going to be going into the season healthy. If he stays healthy, he's going to run for 1,300 plus yards.
Unsure, maybe. Just because of Jalen Hurts, I don't know.
Miles Sanders got 1,250 a year ago.
Okay, well, yeah, then I could see it.
I think Rashad Penny's a really great rusher. I think he's a better rusher than Miles Sanders. That offensive line is coming back pretty much intact. They lost a swing guard, Isaac Seumalo or whatever his name was, but that everybody's back. The offense is going to be mostly intact, and I think Rashad Penny could be very, very good for fantasy. Again, assuming he stays healthy.
For the first 6 weeks, it'll be great. And then you'll have a life-threatening injury. And
oh, gosh. He's going to be a top 8 running back the first 6 weeks of the season. And then after that, all bets are off.
Week 5, dump him now.
Sell it for penny stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We mentioned this briefly, but the Chargers granted Austin Eckler permission to seek a trade about a week ago, which makes sense. He's getting paid $6 million a year. He's very underpaid. He went on the Chris Long podcast. I don't know if you saw this or not, but he basically just went on this whole soapbox of like, I don't get paid enough money, and I'm going to. It wasn't like I'm going to put it to the Chargers, but he was basically like, I'm getting a new contract. And it was the kind of thing where it sort of looked like he wasn't going to play.
Excellent.
You're such a big fan
of Justin Herbert, I am, which is why I am not a big fan of Austin Eckler.
I got rid of my Eckler shares, so I'm in the clear on this one.
Yeah.
I got out of that boat.
Austin, you sit out. Chargers go draft a wide receiver in the first round, preferably Jackson Smith-Njigba. Let Justin Herbert win the MVP, throwing 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards.
Yes, please.
And Austin can sit on the sideline and cry.
And they can just draft a 4th-round rookie running back, go get Zach Evans, and then he's going to be good. Yeah, oh, yes.
Sean Tucker would be great in that offense.
There's so many of those guys would be good in this offense. Kellen Moore,
they take
Sean
Bijan.
Tucker would be great. Oh, my gosh.
This is the 3rd time I've said if a team takes Bijan, they'll be good.
We're gonna start doing a drinking
to be fair,
game.
these are destination landings for running back. Dallas, Philadelphia, and the Chargers.
Chargers would be good for everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just anyone. A tight end, a receiver, any running back.
I would be very upset again if Bijan went to the Chargers because he would likely do the same things that Austin Eckler did to Justin Herbert. Bijan is a younger, better version of Austin Eckler.
Pretty much, yeah. He's a better rusher, and
he's a big version of Austin Eckler.
Yeah. I think he's pretty much better in every sense, but it just would come down to the offense that he's in.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders signs with the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
This one is very interesting. I would assume you're very excited about this.
Yeah, only because I have all. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know I got Miles Sanders on one of my main teams, and you know he crushed Josh's hopes 2 years ago in the playoffs.
He did.
In the year he scored no touchdowns, my boy pulled out 17 points in the playoffs. Shut Josh down. But, I mean, I've always been a relatively big, not a big fan, but I like Miles Sanders. I think he's a good running back. I've always thought he was a good running back, and I thought he gets more hate than he deserves. I think this is a big upgrade for him. Going to Carolina. Carolina doesn't have... First of all, he's a good running back. He's averaged 5 yards per carry for his career. He's going to a system that Frank Reich has utilized very well. Jonathan Taylor, not saying that he's as good as Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's amazing. But Jonathan Taylor averaged 5 yards a carry under Frank Reich. Frank Reich was there when, it was Ryan Matthews with the Chargers. Ryan Matthews was really great there. And now he gets Miles Sanders on a team that really doesn't have another option. Donta Foreman, we'll talk about him later. He went to the Bears. So the only other player they really have is Chuba Hubbard. And he's fine, but obviously he's not going to... I don't think he challenges Miles Sanders at all. And Carolina doesn't have draft capital to replace him for 2 years. Like, they traded their first and second round picks for the next 2 years to move up to number one. So the best... worst case scenario, they draft a rookie in the third round to replace him, and that's worst case scenario for Miles Sanders. Like, bring it on. Like, that's great.
Yeah, he's really good. And if reports are to be believed, Frank Reich wants to use him as a 3-down back. I think he can catch passes. He did his rookie year in Philly, and then the last 3 years he just hasn't for whatever reason. I think they just don't
Jalen Hurts
use him that way.
Throw to the running back.
Yeah, but even like with Carson Wentz there, they didn't throw it to him. He had that one season where he had a few drops and everybody's like, oh, he can't catch anymore. And it was like, oh, well, I mean, okay. All right. That's fine. But I think he could still catch passes.
Yeah, he'll be
and
fine.
I would imagine with whatever quarterback that they take, if they take Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, it doesn't matter which. I think you're going to find that Miles Sanders will be a very good fantasy running back. I've got his floor at 15 right now.
I agree. I don't want to, as much as I like him, I don't want to put him as an RB1 yet, but I think he's a high-end RB2 right now. Low-end RB1.
I would agree. Just because there's so much variance with running backs right now.
But the ceiling is
I
top 10 in my mind, I think.
For sure. And depending on how that offense looks, like we'll get into a few more of these signings. The offense is not going to be terrible. That offensive line is pretty good.
Barring injury, he's going to have a good season.
I agree. I think he's going to be pretty good. He's probably going to be a guy that I draft a lot of this year because I think people are going to wait on him and probably not take him until like the 4th or 5th round. And if I can get Miles Sanders in the 4th, even the 3rd, frankly.
Yeah,
if I can
like
get Miles Sanders in the 3rd.
Late third round, I'm snatching him up every time.
Yeah, because then I can just, I mean, if I want to go early tight end and just crush it there, if I want to take a couple receivers and then go Miles Sanders, maybe Bijan is in the 2nd round or something. Dude, if I can go and get Bijan and Miles Sanders draft like Justin Jefferson in the 1st round or Cooper Kupp or something, God, I'm going to crush it. So, yeah, there's a lot to like there for Miles Sanders. A lot to not like in Houston, though, because Devin Singletary was signed by the Texans, that's not very good for the Dameon Pierce fans. I'm not going to lie.
That's not the worst thing that could happen, but
it's not the worst. I will grant you that. It is not the worst, but pretty much anything that happened was going to be bad, and Devin Singletary he's pretty much a 3-year older Dameon Pierce.
I think Pierce is probably a better runner. I think Pierce is still the starter, but any 3-down workload you were hoping for just went away. And all the receiving just got capped. And I think Singletary could, vulture some touchdowns here and there too. So,
I will not be drafting either one of them.
Not a ton downgrade, but it is a downgrade.
Yeah, I don't think either guy is going to be a fantasy staple for me this year.
If you're starting,
I'm probably going to be.
Yeah, I think you're okay if you have to flex Dameon Pierce. You're not panicking, but if you're playing Devin Singletary in any in any scenario, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not going to be very good. Damian Harris to Buffalo. We also mentioned it. The Bears signed Deonta Foreman. Any thoughts about those two?
I do not believe that the Damian Harris signing will have much impact for fantasy for him or James Cook. I think James Cook is probably about the same. But I think Damian Harris is good overall for Buffalo because it's kind of what their offense needed. Because going into last year, they had 3 of the same player. Devin Singletary, James Cook, and Naheem Hines, in my mind, are all the same guy. So they needed a guy who can pound around the goal line, get short yardage, and I think Damian Harris can do that very well.
Yeah, he's going to probably be the thumper. I would imagine he gets a lot of red zone opportunities in that offense.
Hopefully he does not hurt my boy Josh Allen's fantasy rushing. You stay away from that.
I saw a stat that
you just keep drives going. That's your job.
Exactly. I saw a stat that Devin Singletary had 40 red zone carries.
Wow.
Last year. And Damian Harris in his 15 touchdown season had 41 red zone carries 2 years ago. So I just float that out there. Just kind of let that one marinate for a second. I don't know what it means.
Hopefully it means nothing. I just want the offense as a whole to be better, but Josh Allen to level up.
It could help.
This is just a Josh Allen fan speaking here.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't think it really matters. Like he's going to.
Yeah, for fantasy, I don't think this means anything.
Bears signed Deonta Foreman. This one to me is very interesting because I could see him kind of pushing Khalil Herbert to the side a little bit. He was really good last year for the Panthers, like really, really good. Nobody watched them play at all, but he was great. Take my word for it. He was awesome.
I watched him on Thursday night one time when Marcus Mariota threw the interception on his back.
Oh, that was good. That was really good.
Very sad.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. This one is very much like I don't want either one of them. You're not going to want one of these running backs anywho because Justin Fields, he's going to basically render any running back useless. It won't matter. It will just kind of be interesting to see which one of the two of those guys.
Justin's run the ball 20 times in a row. One of you has to do it now.
Right. They literally schemed runs, like designed sweeps and tosses to Justin Fields.
And he's really good at it, so.
He was great. So, it'll be interesting. I'm not very excited about it, but whatever. Jacoby Myers to the Raiders.
Wide receivers are boring.
We could speed run these, to be totally honest with you. He signed for a lot less money than I thought he would get. I
thought he was the best receiver in this class. Shows
he
how
was supposed to be.
Just weak this class was.
It was not great.
Agents.
I don't imagine he's going to be very great for fantasy. It's a downgrade for him. The offense is probably going to be a slight downgrade. Devontae Adams is the alpha. Obviously, we'll talk about him in a second, but Darren Waller going to the Giants frees up some market share. But
Hunter Renfro's still there.
Exactly. And Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers. Well, Jacoby Myers is more over the middle of the field, and Hunter Renfrow is the short area targets. So I could see Myers doing more in the middle of the field, but the problem is also that Devontae Adams will do a lot in the middle of the field. So I don't know.
And they're probably going to be built a lot around the run, too, with Josh Jacobs.
I would imagine so.
Yep, boring. Moving on.
Adam Thielen gets a 3-year deal to the Panthers.
That's a long deal for an old receiver like Thielen.
He's 32.
I thought he was older than that, but okay. He's still old.
If you had to peg his projected, like if you were to put a number on his totals, his yardage totals next year, what would you set it at?
Maybe 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. I don't know.
Jeez.
You think that's high or low?
Low. I would give him more than that. I mean, he's going to be the one.
I can't imagine they stay put with their receiver room the way it is, though. Like, they got to go get somebody with, like, Thielen as your one, a 33-year-old Adam Thielen, and then Terrence Marshall, who's had, 9 catches his whole career.
Yeah.
Shi Smith in the slot. Love Shi Smith from a Gamecocks, but still, he's not a great NFL receiver.
I could see Adam Thielen leading the team in receiving yards and have 800 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll
He's
be terrible for fantasy
in his career, though.
Yeah,
he's just so good in the red zone.
He does get open in the red zone. And he might still have a little bit of the juice left. I don't know.
We'll see.
Buffalo signed a couple receivers. They got Trent Sherfield from Miami and Deontay Hardy from the Saints. Everybody is going bananas over the Deontay Hardy signing because 2 years ago he was really good in yards per run. He had 2.3 or something like that. Everybody was like, oh my God, he's so good. Deontay Hardy is not a good player. He's going to be the 5th receiver on this team. It is Stephon Diggs and a whole bunch of gross.
They signed these 2 guys, and I still think they desperately need a wide receiver. These 2 guys don't push the needle at all for me.
I have seen one signing that I found was interesting, or draft pick. I've seen them mocked to take Quentin Johnston, and I have cooled a lot on Quentin Johnston. But I think landing spot matters, and I think Quentin Johnston is the type of talent that could play basically what they thought Gabe Davis, that role would be, what they were hoping Gabe Davis would do. I think Quentin Johnston could do that, and he could be
the
really
Mike
good.
Williams role.
Yeah, I think there's not a ton of places that I would be excited for Quentin Johnston to go for fantasy right now. I'm just not super in on him. But if he were to go to Buffalo, I'd be willing to take a shot. But the rest of these guys, I don't care.
Yeah, neither of these signings really do anything for me.
Yeah. Final one, Patriots signed Juju Smith-Schuster for pretty much the exact same contract that Jacoby Myers got from the Raiders.
I hope he sold Juju after his year with Kansas City.
I've got one share of him, and I've been trying to sell him for 3 years, and nobody has bought him.
Really, nobody's going to buy it now.
I have been trying that's not even an exaggeration. I tried to sell him 3 years ago, and I couldn't get any bites. It was the year after his bum year, after this 1,600-yard year.
I thought you would sell him, honestly, when the Chiefs signed him.
I tried. I couldn't get anything. And then he had 900 yards and 7 touchdowns, and I still couldn't sell him. I was like, good grief.
Nobody wants Juju. People are just completely done with Juju.
I think just people hate him. I think that's really what it is.
He is kind of just a goofball.
That's a great way to put it. Quarterbacks, real fast. We're going to run through these.
This is not interesting.
No. Baker Mayfield signed by the Buccaneers. My only note is it's an upgrade for Baker, but literally nobody else.
No, it is. Yeah, I agree.
He's probably going to be their starter unless they draft or trade up and get somebody. Hendon Hooker would be the starter over Baker Mayfield if they grabbed him.
I don't know.
Kyle Trask still might.
I feel like Mayfield would start over Hooker for a while.
Dude, I don't think so.
The first 8 games?
I mean, maybe the first 2.
Until the Bucs fans are ready to just kill Baker and they're like, all right, we have to switch.
Until they're like, we have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and you still suck.
And they're going to be getting Baker Mayfield death threats we need to switch before we get this kid hurt.
Yeah, Baker, gross. Aaron Rodgers, we still know nothing. Nobody knows anything. Yeah.
Aaron, I'll tell you what, at this point, I don't even care, dude.
I just want this whole thing over with. We made that post about him going to the Jets 2 weeks ago, and
he still isn't
we still don't know if he's going to the Jets. Colts signed Gardner Minshew.
This one's actually the only one on this list that I could find kind of interesting.
I could also find it kind of interesting because unless they trade up for a quarterback, their best bet is likely going to be Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Will Levis maybe if they like him more. But I think regardless, both of those guys are a project, and I would imagine that Gardner Minshew would start over both of those players until they were developed.
You tell me if I'm crazy, but I think Gardner Minshew is just as good as Matt Ryan was last year. A washed up Matt Ryan.
Oh, dude, he's better than Matt Ryan. He's
Maybe,
not great.
He might be on par with Carson Wentz.
I could see him being on par with Carson Wentz 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz 2 years ago, though, he was a box score quarterback because his numbers at the end of the year are like, 30 touchdowns. That's not bad. But then you look at the situational stuff and you're like, this dude sucked when you really needed him to just not suck.
Yeah, I need you not to throw a pick to end the game, and you threw a pick to end the game.
Right. Yeah. So Gardner Minshew could be pretty interesting. I think in Superflex leagues, he is worth a look. I think I stashed him in one of our Superflex leagues. Just, I think as a rainy day sort of insurance policy. And
desperation,
he might actually,
like 15 points, I'll take it. Like something like that.
He might actually turn out to be something. Maybe I could trade him for a pick. That would be really nice, but we'll see. Final two here. Jacoby Brissett to the Commanders. I don't care. He's probably...
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders. He will presumably start for them this year. I would imagine, even if they draft one of the rookies, I don't see... Unless they trade up to like the top 2 or something, I don't see them starting a rookie over Jimmy Garoppolo. So he's probably their starter. He is, we've said it before, a slightly worse, much better looking version of Derek Carr.
Yeah, they upgraded in the looks department.
They did. For sure.
The casinos in Vegas are going to be looking real good when Jimmy shows up.
Speaking of Vegas, Darren Waller got traded to the Giants for a 3rd-round pick.
Good for Darren.
Smash trade for the Giants. They need pass catchers. Darren Waller's a pretty darn good one. So it is Wan'Dale Robinson off an ACL. It is Paris Campbell. It is Isaiah Hodgins. And it is Darren Waller catching passes from old Danny Dimes. And Saquon.
And Kenny Galladay.
Oh, I thought they cut him.
Did they? I don't know.
I think they cut him.
Oh, maybe they did. So maybe not Kenny Galladay.
He's so far gone from public consciousness. I think we're the only show that still talks about him.
Yeah. Same as Calvin Ridley, though people may start to pick up with Calvin Ridley.
They might.
I just want to say we were in on Calvin Ridley this past year. We talked about him every week.
We did. We also talked about Kenny Galladay about 500% more than anybody else.
Oh, we talked about Kenny Galladay a lot. And we're going to keep it going as long as we remember. Eventually he'll fade from even us.
I really hope he signs somewhere just so that we can keep mentioning how there was that one time when he made like $1 million every catch.
He goes to the Ravens. Wouldn't that be? That'd be a hoot.
Oh, my gosh. Wouldn't that be funny? Dalton Schultz to the Houston Texans. Yeah,
I had people try to sell me Dalton Schultz across a couple leads, and I said no every time. And this is why. This is what I was afraid of.
So I think this is a better real-life move than it is a fantasy move. It's going to be great for whichever quarterback that they draft to have Dalton Schultz there as a safety blanket because he's a really good receiving tight end. The problem is Houston's offense is probably going to be pretty doo-doo flakes next year. And they're going to have a rookie
quarterback. Just
quarterback.
traded their best receiver.
Yeah, they have, let's see, John Mechie, Robert Woods. Robert Woods is fine. Dalton Schultz now, and Nico Collins. They're probably going to draft a receiver as well. You could get Jordan Addison in there.
Every mock I see is like they take a quarterback at 2, and then they take a receiver at 12 because they have to.
I could totally see that. If they get Jackson Smith and Jigba, holy frick! If they get Jordan Addison,
Stroud and Jigba pair those two guys together.
Ooh,
that'd be great.
That'd be nice. Let's see here. We'll speed run these final ones. Mike Gesicki to the Patriots. Gross. Hayden Hurst to the Panthers. Mildly interesting, but still gross. The Bears signed Robert Tonyan. Super duper gross, especially if you like Cole Kmet. And Jonnu Smith traded to Atlanta, and it means what?
Not much.
Yeah.
Last time we saw Jonnu Smith, it was with Arthur Smith. He scored 8 touchdowns, which is interesting, but he scored 8 touchdowns and was still the tight end 16 in PPR.
Because he caught positively no passes. They did not throw to him at all.
I love Kyle Pitts. I don't think he's going to come in and really take anything away from him.
No. If you still liked Kyle Pitts prior to this trade, you're going to still like Kyle Pitts. After the trade, they're probably still going to run the ball 38 million times a game anyway. So what does it matter? Everything's meaningless.
Jonnu may have a 30% target share this year. Catch 8
He
passes.
He might. Catch 8 balls. Oh, thus is the state of the Falcons. And they're probably going to take a corner in the draft too, which is great.
We are so content to be incredibly mediocre.
Y'all going to draft like Christian Gonzalez, who's a great player, by the way, but he's a corner. You don't need a corner. You need a quarterback, a receiver, a running back, an offensive lineman.
In the first round.
You need a pass rusher.
I was like so excited we were going to take a pass rusher. And like, AJ Terrell, I'm like, no! Like screaming at my TV in the living room.
And he's good.
Yeah, he's good, but it was like 2-3 years ago. We desperately need a pass rusher, and guess what? We still desperately need a pass rusher.
Remember when Vic Beasley was going to be the truth?
And now he's in the XFL.
Nice. Gotta love it. That'll do it for this one. We'll, I don't know if you have any parting thoughts before I just close this thing down, but
I have more DeAndre Swift rants and Atlanta Falcons rants, and I have rants on other things too. I don't think y'all want to hear it, but I'm always down for a good rant.
I've been looking at the door behind you this whole time. I think you're safe. I haven't seen anybody walk in with an AK-47
Oh, I'm still
yet.
sleeping with the shotgun tonight.
Yeah, better watch out the windows. You know, no Molotov cocktails, please.
Oh gosh.
Catch a fiery end because
that would be tough.
A Russian woman.
The Russian woman screaming at me in the office. I wanted to give her vodka, but I didn't have any.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, it's fading fast. We need to get out of here before it gets bad. We'll see ya. I don't know when we'll see you again, but
we will do something again this week.
Sure.
Just keep an eye out.
We'll see you. Bye.
Peace.